Welcome to the deep dive. We are diving into quite a diverse set of sources today, really looking at those front page headlines and trying to pull out the most crucial bits of knowledge. Our mission here is always to make sure you're quickly, thoroughly, and well intelligently informed about the economic shifts that are really defining things right now.
Yeah, and we've got a fascinating mix today. We're looking at some, let's say, structural unfairness in property tax laws.
Ah, yes.
A really big moment, potentially, in the mobile chip competition globally.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the kind of quiet explosion of Korea's ultra-wealth management sector. And finally, a huge national commitment to future defense tech.
Okay, quite a range. Let's start unpacking this. First up is this issue with structure and fairness, the comprehensive real estate tax, the Jongbus. The sources seem to paint a picture of a tax policy that, well, it almost actively penalizes single name owners while giving this huge advantage to joint name owners, even for the exact same house.
Yeah, what's really striking is just the asymmetry of the whole legal framework. I mean, to put it in perspective, we're talking about a major national wealth tax on high-value property.
Hmm.
But the rules for calculating the threshold, they're just wildly different, based purely on how the title is registered between spouses.
Okay, maybe we can ground this with that really stark example from the sources. So we're looking at a household, right? They own an apartment, public assessed price, Gongsi Gagyuk, of 1.5 billion KRW, which just for context, that's a pretty substantial asset, puts them squarely in that high value property category.
Precisely. Now, if this apartment, same value, has been owned for 2 years under what's very common, the spousal joint name ownership,
Hmm.
the tax outcome is, well, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
The comprehensive real estate tax they owe is 0 KRW, nothing,
Wow.
thanks to the combined standard deduction and, often age and duration reliefs get applied too.
Zero tax on a 1.5 billion KRW asset, just because the names are split on the paperwork.
Now, hold that number. Compare it to the identical apartment, same 1.5 billion KRW value, also held for 2 years, but this time registered under single name ownership. Because they only get the basic 1.2 billion KRW deduction, they miss out on key spousal exemptions. That household, they end up paying around 900,000 KRW in tax.
Almost a million KRW.
Yeah, nearly a million KRW difference, penalty really, for the
Yeah.
exact same home, used the same way, purely because of how the title's registered.
That seems, well, absurd. And it raises a pretty obvious question for any single name owner listening right now, realizing they might be paying almost a million KRW more than their neighbors. Why wouldn't they just switch to joint names? But this is where that conversion trap comes in, isn't it?
It really does. It's not just, simple paperwork. If you switch from single name to a 50-50 joint split, the tax authorities treat that as a transfer of assets, specifically a gift, joyeo. And for that specific B-couple example mentioned in the source material, to make that ownership equal, the gift tax on the part transferred above the spousal exemption. It works out to around 20 million KRW.
Right. So you're faced with this choice. Either keep paying that extra tax, nearly a million KRW every single year indefinitely, or pay a one-off pretty significant penalty of 20 million KRW just to get the tax fairness the policy probably should have offered from the start. That sounds like the very definition of an unreasonable structure that Bull Habrahan Gujo phrase used.
Absolutely. And the experts quoted, they're pretty unanimous on this. Before the government even thinks about raising property taxes generally, which, always comes up, they really have to fix this inequality first. You can't have a system that basically forces citizens into one type of ownership using these punishing tax mechanisms like the current gift tax setup. Structural reform has to be the priority if you want a fair tax base.
Okay, a very clear issue there. Now, shifting focus quite dramatically from fiscal structures to, well, mobile chip architecture, there's a major update confirming Samsung's push for a kind of strategic tech revival. We're talking about the Exynos 2600 application processor.
Yeah, this is potentially a big deal. It's more than just a new chip announcement. It feels like a statement of intent, maybe independence, for Samsung's System Semiconductor division. Mass production and supply are apparently starting next month. And importantly, the Exynos 2600 isn't just for some Galaxy S26 models. It's confirmed for the entire lineup. That includes the high-end Ultra model.
Which is significant, right? Because that's the first time in, 4 years that their own AP is going back into the Ultra flagship?
Exactly, 4 years.
Now, Samsung had to pull Exynos from a lot of flagships before because of performance issues. Overheating was a big one, right? Market wasn't exactly thrilled a few years back. So why should we or the market believe this time is different? What's giving them this confidence?
Well, the confidence seems to stem from their internal test results, which suggests they haven't just caught up, but maybe even leapfrogged the competition in some really key areas. Let's look at the numbers, especially where it matters most right now. AI, the neural processing unit, the NPU, that's the engine for on-device AI, large language models. Its performance is reportedly 6 times higher than what Apple's expected A19 Pro might deliver.
6 times. Wow. That's not incremental. That's an explosive improvement, isn't it?
It really is.
That suggests more than just faster benchmarks. It implies a real shift in capability, doesn't it? Maybe running much bigger AI models right there on the phone, less cloud dependence, faster responses.
Exactly. That seems to be the implication. And the improvements reported are broad, too. Multi-core CPU performance supposedly 15% better than competitors. And the GPU, crucial for gaming, up to 75% better in some tests. Plus, the sources say that for overall multimedia, think like high-res video streaming, sustained gaming, it beats both the A19 Pro and Qualcomm's next Snapdragon, the 8 Elite 5th Gen.
So strategically, this looks like it could solve 2 huge issues for Samsung. First, it helps revive the System LSI division's reputation globally and gives them the volume they need. And second, it must improve profitability for the mobile division by cutting down their reliance on, frankly, expensive chips from external suppliers like Qualcomm.
It's definitely a push toward self-sufficiency, probably driven by competitive need. And the chip itself, it's using that advanced 2nm process. The reports indicate that process has hit about 85% of its performance target already. Now, achieving that kind of yield and performance suggests maybe, just maybe, they've finally overcome those stability issues that plagued earlier Exynos generations. It feels like more than just a product win. It's almost a necessary structural change for them to keep competitive margins long term.
That point about structure and capital concentration, it actually ties nicely into our next topic. If Samsung's fighting these tech battles, let's look at where Korea's huge private wealth is focusing its capital, the family office market. The sources suggest this sector, serving the ultra-rich, isn't just growing, it's absolutely surging.
The growth numbers are pretty staggering. We're talking about ultra-high net worth individuals, typically defined as having 30 billion KRW or more just in financial assets. And since the major Korean securities firms really formalized their family office, or FO, services around 2020, the total assets they manage has just exploded. It's already passed the 100 trillion KRW mark in just 5 years.
100 trillion KRW. That's hard to even conceptualize. How significant is the total capital held by this elite group?
Well, if you look at the total financial assets held by all UHNWIs in Korea, it's estimated around 3,267 trillion KRW. And what's really remarkable there is that this total pool of private wealth is now actually larger than the entire national pension fund, which is around 12,212 trillion KRW.
Wow.
So this isn't just rich people, this is institutional scale capital operating outside the public system. And that probably explains why the family offices themselves are changing how they operate so fundamentally.
Right, they're not just, fancy private banking desks picking stocks anymore. The sources talk about this evolution towards a WM plus IB combined model. What does that actually mean for the client?
It means they're becoming sort of private wealth architects. Their job goes way beyond just wealth management, WM, allocating investments. They're offering full investment banking IB services, now handling corporate M&A deals for the family businesses, providing really crucial business succession planning, managing complex tax consulting for inheritance and gifts, Sangsuk and Jungyo, and even getting into family governance, like setting up family charters, legal advice, wills. It's like having a bespoke private legal and financial firm just for your family.
And the types of clients driving this demand, it seems quite varied. You have the traditional first-gen owners looking for stability, sure, but who's really fueling that more aggressive, high-risk, high-return side of things?
That aggressive demand seems to come mainly from 2 newer groups. First, the exit owners founders who've recently sold their companies, maybe through M&A, and now have this huge chunk of cash they need to put to work. And second, the new wealth people who've made fortunes relatively quickly, maybe from successful tech startups, crypto, things like that. While the older money might prefer stable management, these newer groups, they're described as highly aggressive. They're not just buying blue-chip U.S. stocks, they're actively seeking out high-risk global alternative investments, things like, say, promising Chinese AI or EV companies.
And crucially, a big driver for using these sophisticated FOs seems to be the international angle, specifically using overseas FOs, like in Singapore. And this seems almost entirely driven by minimizing Korean taxes, doesn't it?
That appears to be the critical structural advantage, yes. moving substantial wealth and family structures offshore. It's about diversifying assets, sure, but maybe more importantly, it's about tax management. There's a key exemption in Korean tax law. Non-residents or foreign corporations are exempt from capital gains tax on Korean-listed stocks.
Okay, so if you structure things right, you manage your Korean stock portfolio through, say, a Singapore-based family office entity, what's the effective tax hit?
Well, given that Singapore generally doesn't tax corporate investment income either, the combination of Korea's capital gains exemption for foreigners and Singapore's corporate income policy means you can end up with virtually a zero tax burden on those transactions.
Zero.
Effectively zero. So this kind of sophisticated international structuring means, arguably, Korea is losing out on potentially massive amounts of tax revenue from the wealthiest segment. That burden shifts somewhere else. It's a critical, often unspoken factor in national fiscal debates.
Right. Okay, finally, let's turn to that long-term strategic investment area, defense and aerospace. President Lee Jae-myung made quite a pledge at the Seoul 80X 2025 opening. Sounds like a massive commitment to R&D.
It really does. It's a very clear national goal being stated: become a global top 4 defense and aerospace power. And to get there, the president promised an unprecedented massive budget, specifically for defense and aerospace R&D between now and 2030.
And where's that money going specifically? Is it just about buying more jets and ships, the big hardware?
Not just that, the core focus seems to be on securing proprietary foundational tech. So, concentrating on 2 key things: specialized defense semiconductors and components, the digital guts of modern defense systems, and building out independent proprietary space development capabilities. We often focus on the big platforms, but those specialized chips, they're really the key to technological superiority these days.
And if the goal is rapid progress, how does the government plan to get private sector innovation into defense projects quickly? Bureaucracy can often be a hurdle there.
That's where this policy mechanism comes in. They're introducing and expanding the defense industry fast-track system. It's designed specifically to cut through red tape, speed up the adoption of cutting-edge tech from the private sector into actual defense programs. And it also aims to make it much easier for smaller companies, SMEs, startups, who are often the real innovators in niche components, to actually participate in these big national defense projects.
Right.
So the commitment seems systemic, not just about throwing money at it.
So quite a range today, whether we're looking at tax policy that seems structurally unfair, a semiconductor strategy making a huge technical jump, or these private wealth offices optimizing for a, well, near-zero tax global setup. The systems and strategies shaping Korea's economy are definitely undergoing some rapid, intense shifts.
Indeed, a clear move towards self-reliance in key tech, alongside really aggressive optimization in how private capital is managed globally. Both trends are likely to define the economic landscape for quite some time.
Bah, 인지겐, 현지기린디온.
Yeah, 이 공쟁 언제가?
Keng. Ja.
Okay.
Jongjum, sa viajo. Om Shini so han jo, hum shjanyan jong, winter han jo kinko, kaumo, oi men det de falt saki, ang bolskene.